Whether it's the quiet stillness of a village amid dawn's morning light, or the sun's rays as they glisten off the rivers, the softly rolling hillsides carpeted with trees, or the majestic architecture of the Pittsburgh skyline. It is all part of a place we call home, with a landscape rivaling that from any artist's canvas, and a beauty that hints of the eternal. The western Pennsylvania environment in which we live is something to be cherished and protected. There are those among us who work tirelessly to preserve our environment. The beauty that surrounds us is a living testament to their commitment and perseverance. It is these uncommon people and organizations that we have come to recognize and honor, and it is to them that we dedicate tonight's tribute presentation. Welcome to the 1997 Three Rivers Environmental Awards. The last warm, sultry days of summer have passed. The days are shorter now. The air turned cooler. And suddenly, western Pennsylvania is on fire. With its graceful rolling hillsides, rich farmlands, and spacious forests, western Pennsylvania is a palette of color, heralding nature's final moment of glory before the stillness of winter sets in. Everywhere you turn, you're left to marvel at a solitary tree whose colors seem too perfect. forests are filled with leaves that rustle on the trees. Hay in the fields caressed by cool fall breezes. And rivers that reflect a million colors to the sky. And so it is that this brief moment in time casts in our hearts the most indelible memory of Western Pennsylvania.
When you look under the surface of French Creek, it's like opening a treasure chest back into time. In 1753, the French and English were in conflict over North America. At that time, the Seven-Year War was occurring in Europe. And the French were concerned about the fact they didn't have sufficient population, so they were building a series of forts to solidify their hold on a transportation corridor that had been used by the Native Americans before them.
French Creek was the avenue from Lake Erie to the forks of the Ohio and Pittsburgh. And of course the French were trying to establish their control over this highway, if you will.
It's only 14 miles from Presque Isle, where they had Fort Presque Isle, down to Waterford, where they had Fort Le Boeuf. And once you're at Waterford, you can then go by Le Boeuf Creek, down French Creek, to the Allegheny River, to the Ohio and the Mississippi. As soon as those forts were constructed, the English and Americans were concerned because they were infringing on their territory, at least territory they claimed.
And so it was that Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie of Virginia looked to send someone up to Fort Le Boeuf, where the French were establishing a station, as it were, to ask them politely to leave. And they chose a young major in the Virginia militia by the name of George Washington and sent him to come up French Creek to Fort Le Boeuf. The French, of course, were no interest in moving away. They suspected Washington, and we often point to that trip as one of the key steps leading to the outbreak of the French and Indian War.
In a very real sense, French Creek is a colonial-era stream in regards to the biological diversity you find. The kind of species that Washington would have discovered when he was here in 1753 still exists in certain stream stretches. Within the last 15 to 20 years, researchers doing work on the creek have discovered that it has more species of fish with over 80 and more species of freshwater mussels with 26 than any stream in the state of Pennsylvania. There are very few streams like it in the northeastern part of North America. It's that diverse. The major problem that faces French Creek is something called non-point source pollution. It's water pollution that flows off the land, like a farm field, or off a parking lot, or off a lawn, and it can end up in the stream and degrade water quality. So the major thing that we're trying to do is inform people about the importance of French Creek, so to recognize that we can begin to change those behaviors that impact water quality. Our vision is that 5 or 10 years from now, the biological diversity of French Creek will be preserved and will have the kind of sustainable economic development that we need to have in this watershed.
Oh, it's so free, it's so clear, clean. After rain, the water just so crisp, so different than a swimming pool. I swam in swimming pools up until I come up here. And once I come up here, I was never back into a swimming pool. I come up here 40 years ago from Pittsburgh. A fella talked me into coming up, and we walked down Saturday morning to the river, down on an old railroad bed. And I saw that river and fell in love with it. And I like to swim, canoe, fish, hike. So from then on, I was coming up about every weekend until I bought a camp up there, and then I moved into it, got married, and that's my home.
The Clarion River is a river reborn because of the fact in the 1900s it was declared dead.
There was an awful lot of timbering at that time. They probably stripped both sides of the river all the way down. And a lot of erosion was caused in. And that brought a lot of dirt, debris into the water.
So because of the timbering industry, there was the tannery and then the paper mill. And these other industries grew up right along the floodplains of the Clarion River, creating jobs, and people were not aware of what they were spilling into the river or into the tributaries. And before they knew it, the Clarion River was completely black, black as oil. Finally, in the 1970s, all types of industries started to learn and recognize that they were polluting the Clarion River because of different entities. The river has become more of a rebirth or a cleaning. We are still fighting pollution, but the river is probably in the best shape that it has been since 1840s.
And now that the river's cleaned up some, we've got all kinds of fish. We've got trout and bass, and they just stocked muskie 2 weeks ago down there. Canoeing is second to none. Just beautiful.
Toki's generation knew the river. They know the river. They understand the river. And they appreciate the river. My generation, the baby boom generation, I think removed themselves from the natural parts of the river and forgot how important it is to take care of it. We need to protect it. It has struggled since the 1900s. It's finally to a point where it was designated wild and scenic.
I like it. I use it every day. I swim in it every day from the 1st of May to the end of October. I get a couple mile swim every day. So that's really nice.
Anyone can do it. Easy, right?
I took one by myself just to kind of get the feel of it, and after that it was like, where's the best slope you got?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Very easy, a lot of fun to do. The more people, the better.
No problem.
It was great, like a roller coaster ride.
That's the most fun I've had in a long time.
Let's rock.
Oh boy.
Oh, shoot! Oh, my gosh!
to go. Let's go. Okay, great. Ready, 3, 2, 1.
People come up to me and say, "Oh, God, you're blind. How do you do it?" I said, "Well, just go follow the guide. So behind me, they tell me which way to turn, which way to go, and I have a good time that way." The trouble with people could see, they look down and see a slope and they get petrified because it's steep. Well, maybe because I can't see, I advantage in many ways because I don't see it, but I can feel it. I'm going down a hill.
Okay, left, hard, turn. Nice. Right, hard, turn. Excellent. Reverse across. Okay, left, hard, turn. Nice. It's a very freeing sensation because when I ski, I have a guide. There's no physical contact between me and my guide. The guide calls my turns, right turn, left turn, and I make the turns as I come down the hill. And there are so many things that I'm so limited that I'm not able to do that other people can do. And so it's a very confidence-building thing for me.
Snowboarding's pretty much good for everybody, whether you're from 7 to 70, it really doesn't matter. I mean, anybody can learn how to do it. Some people call it extreme. Myself, I really don't think it is. I mean, it's just like anything else. I mean, with practice, anybody can do it.